Mary and Chris came to our home office 4 years ago.
I remember that day so well because you gave us a tour of your offices, and there was a great big American flag, and then we went into the room where you had the dedication to Warren Buffett, but also recognizing many of your employees or relatives or families of your employees and the role they played in service to our country, just really celebrating the contributions they've made to the point where you had a whole wall dedicated to them.
I'll give Mary full credit for it. I think she said this would make a great book. You've got all this wonderful material here that really encaptured a great story about America.
So what the three of us would like to do is share part of that journey with you. And Jonathan, you want to reflect on your experience of 16 years ago attending the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting?
We weren't alone being the second generation at the conference. There's a lot of people who bring their families along, and it's also delivered in such a simple way that anyone can understand and walk away with some great messages about life or investing. There was a 13-year-old that went up to the microphone and said, "Mr. Buffett, I'm 13 years old and this is my 6th Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting." And everyone stops and gives him a round of applause. That's the kind of energy that's there. There's so much excitement for people to be able to get that kind of information at a young age and imagine how you can put that knowledge to use over the long run.
So Kati, talk about your experience about you coming on to Spectrum and where you fit in the picture.
In 2018, I was a recipient for a Germantown Community Scholarship Fund, and that's where I met Jim as he presented the award, and we took a picture on stage. I, as energetic as I could be as a senior in high school, asked about internship opportunities, and Jim said, "Let's stay in touch."
We jumped at it. When you said, let's do a mural on Warren Buffett, I'm with you. On the other wall on our second floor, we have 60 framed stories of soldiers related to our employees and or their spouses. And of the 60 stories, 20 of those stories are related to John's wife, Laura.
As we shared those stories within the office, more and more stories kept unfolding. That developed the Spectrum Soldier Wall, and the connection between the two, the Warren Buffett timeline and the Soldier Wall, it was like magic that the two were connected together. And that's when our friends gave the suggestion.
We have an expression at Spectrum that says, when someone dies, a library closes. But at Spectrum, we want to keep that library open. That's our story. Hopefully you enjoy the book.
One word for the American tailwind.
I don't think one word would be sufficient.
For me, the word was inspirational.
I couldn't use just one word to say how great the book is.
Oh, one word. I'm going to say powerful.
Resilience.
Relevance.
I would probably say thoughtful and powerful. If I could pick 2 words, I'd probably say those 2.
Freedom isn't free.
I would say the word inspirational.
Well, one word that comes to mind is appreciation.
I think this is all about sacrifice.
So how is Warren Buffett connected to our soldiers? Warren Buffett included the following statement in his 2018 Berkshire Hathaway Annual Report, celebrating the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
It's beyond arrogance for American businesses or individuals to boast that they have done it alone. The tidy rows of simple white crosses at Normandy should shame those who make such claims.
Warren Buffett.
We should be studying Warren Buffett. What a wonderful person. He's a great American. He's what America's about.
Good leaders, by definition, are humble. He's been very outspoken at times in a way that kind of calms everybody down. And just, this is the way we're going, you know.
This book humanizes him for all of us. It makes what he has done in his life attainable for everybody, even if it's just the messaging and the way he's chosen to live his life.
The way he's been able to be successful, but at the same time, he gives back, he's philanthropic, he's supportive of his community and the people that he cares about, and he does it in a very humble way.
I think that there are great life lessons that we can learn from the American Tailwind, not only from how Warren Buffett was raised, but just reminding ourselves of all the greatness that we have.
The prisoners that were here in Mequon had been in Africa with Erwin Rommel, known as the Desert Fox. My dad chose 12 of them to work with him at Herbert Ainian Canning Company. My dad was the foreman. Some people don't realize where Jim's office is, and it actually looks out over the canning factory, which is St. Paul Fish Company. So every day he comes to work, he can look out over there and he could say, yep, that's where the prisoners of war were. And he can feel really good about passing on this information to the next generation.
My uncle, Quirino Monticelli, is featured in the book. And he served in World War II from 1941 to 1945. And he was trained under General George Patton in the Mojave Desert and then followed him all the way through the Battle of the Bulge. So we got this information because he was interviewed by the Wisconsin Veterans Museum in 2018 at the age of 100. And he went on to live until 102 years old. And he coincidentally grew up only 2 miles away from where Jim Marshall grew up. So that was a very cool tie-in with the book.
You know, I have a ghost that I carry with me. I never looked at my dad in his eyes, and I never shook his hand, and I never said thank you. I never had that opportunity until he was on his deathbed. And I promised him that I was going to do something in his honor. And I got very involved with the American Legion. And fast forward, I got involved with Stars and Stripes Honor Flight. But I look at that plane and all I see is my dad. I never got to take a flight with him, but that ghost never leaves. And this is my way that I can say thank you to the veterans, and my work that I do behind the scenes with them through the Honor Flight and through the American Legion is my way of saying thanks, Dad, because I never did that in my life. So I felt inspiration to keep going because it is a lot of work sometimes, and you get done with these flights and it's, you know, a 16, 18, 20-hour day. It's a lot of work, but I come off of it again with more energy to do another one, and your book just reminded me about why I have to keep going and why I have to give back to our veterans.
I was drafted in 1965, ended up getting shipped to Vietnam. I spent a lot of time on point, which is, you know, out in front leading search and destroy operations. I wasn't in country more than 8 weeks, and I took a burst of 5 from an AK-47. That's where I met Chris Keggy, who was a surgeon, a young surgeon.
He had one of the first MASH units in Vietnam.
Yep.
For those of you that have watched MASH, he was MASH.
Yeah, and that was a
He
real
was doing
deal.
surgery with a hard hat helmet on,
Mm-hmm.
T-shirt, shorts, flip-flops.
Yep, just like, yep.
And people would say, you can't be dressed like that. He said, what are you going to do, send me to Vietnam?
And I sent him a letter. I just said, Chris, you're not going to remember who I am, but 50 years ago today at exactly 10:30, you kept my arm connected to my body. We've been really good friends for the last 7 years. God's got to have a special place reserved for you in heaven because the impact that you've had on so many lives around the world is incredible.
To take this story full circle, through Mike, we asked Chris to be a speaker at tonight's event at our American Tailwind launch. And he says, God willing, I'll be there, only to have Chris Keggy die on the 4th of July of 2023.
Yeah.
So we wanted to not only have Mike tell his story, but also honor Chris Keggy. Because without Chris Keggy, Mike may not be sitting here today.
We often look past or don't remember those who made such ultimate sacrifice, selfless sacrifice. And I believe that's what this book does, is it captures that and just, again, reminds people we have what we have because of them.
People before us that have sacrificed in ways we will never imagine. We can read about these things. They're glamorized in movies, and there are so few of these folks left to tell us about that. And when they do, we all listen.
And I think this book is a collection of stories and experiences and an important window into people's lives that I think gives us a connection and understanding that's very, very powerful.
As I read it, I thought, geez, this book needs to be read by every youth in our communities.
It's your way to show appreciation for those who have served, but it's also your way then of trying to help other people have that same appreciation and understanding. So thank you for appreciating us.
The American Tailwind and the Resilience of America.
For the next generation to give them hope.